I call it Get to Know Your PHY Type. The reason I'm giving this kind of presentation is that MetaGeek has quite a few customers that use various different versions of our product. Starting back with the Insider product is probably our most popular product that we have. It was free for a long time. Then we started to decide to make some improvements to that application. We made it paid for. But we also have our channelizer application, our spectrum analyzer, and then IPA. And this isn't a sales pitch for those products. You can check them out. They speak for themselves. You'll buy them if you want them. You may already have them. But what's pretty cool is that we have some analytics that are in there. And when you go through the installer, there's an opt-in, opt-out of the software. And when you opt in, you give us some really awesome information about what's being used. You give us no personal information. So all the information we have, we can't tell who it is, where you are. We obfuscate the information from even ourselves so that we keep privacy there. But we do get good analytics about how our software is performing, what features are being used. But the other cool thing is we're actually able to get some really cool information about, I think that was 2 cools. I got a quota, so if I get over 10 or something, just cut me off. But we get some good analytics about the environments that you have and where you're using our software and what either the connected network you have is or what the connected network is seeing. And so we're able to take that information, and I will present some of that here. It's some information that you're not going to get other places. If you work for a vendor, you may have some of this information coming to you, but you're going to get it from your vendor's view. This is agnostic, if you will, because we don't have a connection to any vendor. We love them all, and we think that they all have really good products for what they need to do, and they each have their own value proposition. So the data I have is also from, I tried to get samples of about 20,000 plus users. So we're getting a large enough sample of individuals that I'm not statistically anomalies here. So these are statistically should be variable. I think 30 is enough, and I have 10,000 times that. So hopefully that helps. But if you do debate or disagree with the data, I'd love to have that conversation because there could be things that, I don't know, maybe we're missing, and so we want to make sure. But what the heck am I going to talk about? We're going to go through a real quick speed date, and then that'll make everybody really uncomfortable, and then we'll start talking about PHY types. We'll make them even more uncomfortable, and then we'll talk about what could work about our relationship, making sure our relationship will work. And then after we got that, we'll have, unfortunately, a tragedy, and it will be a sad one, but welcomed, which is weird. It's going to a better place. And then where have you been is talking about, where is the PHY's been, and then we're going to get into, we should tell other people what we know, and then we should also just talk about what the heck happened to us, and then your turn to either boo, throw stuff, or cheer. Cheering's awesome. All right. So my name is Stoney Tuckness. I live in Meridian, Idaho. It's a town about 11 miles away from Boise, the capital. I have 2 certifications, CWNA and CWAP. Supposedly that makes me know what I'm talking about. At least makes me know what I'm talking about regardless to those things. My email, my Twitter, Skype, please don't put those on bathroom walls. Those are my real name, my real stuff, so it's all business-like with it. And let's get out of the jokes and start talking about what I'm supposed to talk about. So here's kind of the history of the PHYs, right, so far as we've got them. Starting back in 1997, the first real ratification came out where we had DSSS and FHSS S quota used, we came out with the data rates were awesome at the time, 2 megabits per second, holy cow, no one's gonna need more than that, right? Because the RAM on our computers were probably 16 to 32 and everybody was really excited. And then B came out in 1999 because yes, we can get faster with 11 megabits per second, and then somebody decided, hey, 5 gigahertz is out there, it's unlicensed, let's use it as well. So 802.11a came out with OFDM. And you had, well, what about us who got 802.11, the base one? Well, B made it backwards compatible. So you're able to get backwards compatibility there. But it still wasn't quite fast enough in the 2.4 gigahertz. 5 was working well, but no one really was able to use 5 as well. And then we were talking about 802.11b wasn't fast enough, 11 megabits per second. We needed to get faster, and so OFDM was doing a nice job in 5 gigahertz, moved that to the 2.4 gigahertz, and now we're able to get up to 54. But we still wanted to make sure all of our clients were back, that we were able to support all of our clients with the new and improved 2.4 gigahertz PHY type with that 802.11g. And then about 6 years later, we had 802.11n, which brought 2.4 and 5 gigahertz together to try to get them to follow the same rules. And we wanted to get backwards compatibility. So it maintained backwards compatibility, but we got backwards compatibility in 2.4 and 5 gigahertz. The cool thing is, though, we started to add spatial streams. So now we're able to actually communicate on more than one stream at a time. We're able to get better communications, things bouncing off the walls, helps us. We're able to really improve it in 300 megabits per second. That's pretty cool. And then that wasn't enough. We had to get AC. AC's out now. AC's in multiple waves, depending on who you got. But 2014, 5 gigahertz only for that one, but we're able to get 7 gigabits per second. Holy cow, 7 gigabits per second, that's amazing. That's faster than Ethernet, right? Well, it takes a lot of spatial streams. It takes a lot of spectrum to do that. And we're taking a lot of spectrum in an area that, we're already dealing with a lot of overlap. We're already dealing with a lot of congestion. And then we just added in on our own to get those higher data rates. We added our own congestion by getting our much larger, what were we just trying to say here? Larger channels, if you will. But the one thing about it is that we are able to get those higher speeds, and if we can educate the populace, we can actually probably utilize that spectrum much better. So this is where we're at. We got backwards compatibility. Everybody's happy. So all those really, really old devices that are still been around since 1997, if they still out there, can communicate all the way up to our most modern stuff, right? Yay, that was good, I guess. It's faster or something, right? So Wi-Fi. Earlier they were talking about Wi-Fi is one of those things that is magic. Well, it really is when you think about it. There is some very interesting things that are going on from the scientific level, but the adoption, seems to be growing ever more by the more of these things that we have, right? The more devices that we carry, the more Wi-Fi becomes important because people want to use them at work, but people also need them at home. And I was looking up some data just to understand what the magnitude of this was. And when you're looking at, 439 million houses have Wi-Fi. It's 25% of the population, 25% of all of them. Now, who knows how many houses there are? In case you're wondering, there's 1.9 billion houses in the world. So who counted those? Had a crappy job, but man, they one house, 2 houses, 3 houses, 4 houses. No, they don't get any better, by the way. They're going to be that bad the whole day. But in 2016, that's going to go to 800 million. Almost 50% of the households will have Wi-Fi. That's pretty wild when you think about it, because there's a lot of people that are struggling to have water. There's a lot of people struggling to have power, and then we're going to have 800 million homes have Wi-Fi. That's pretty amazing. They believe that at this point that 3 times as many devices are connected via wireless than they are connected via the wire, which is true because we got 100 and what do you say? We're going to run out. We had almost 300 some clients next door when we're all together. That's just ones that are in there. 80% of all the traffic is going to be wireless, and with the broadband and with the cellular, realizing how many people are coming out with cellular devices, they need to offload that, and they're offloading that back to 802.11, so you're getting the Wi-Fi being the new backhaul. And what's interesting is that there's companies now coming out where the mobile phone is only Wi-Fi. There is no cellular technology in the phone, and it just connects via Wi-Fi. Communication wholly is over Wi-Fi. I thought that was pretty awesome. Then I thought about, well, what the heck is that going to do to the spectrum? You add that many more clients onto already a crowded situation and a congestion situation, that's going to cause us some issues. But, it's the way it's going to go because we're able to get, we're going to get faster and we've got it. But some of the other places that I found was interesting is airlines, on airplanes. Right now, Delta's leading the way with the most Wi-Fi on airplanes. United is making a big push. But at the time I took this data, or at least any published data, they had about 513 flights, even though they fly the most in the US. And these are US, no, there's European guys, sorry if I don't have your airlines represented. So what is, just out of curiosity, you know, being Wi-Fi people, have you guys checked out the Wi-Fi on an airline?
Oh yeah.
You used it?
Yes.
Yeah, have you looked at it?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's fun, huh? Yeah, I did too. So these are gonna be really hard for you guys in the back, but trust me to say that when you break out a Wi-Spy and you break out a Air PCAP NX on an airplane, it starts to make people a little nervous. Just a little bit nervous, but you got cables and antennas and cool colors on your screen. And matter of fact, when I was doing this, I had a flight attendant tell me I couldn't do this. I could do what? She goes, you can't have that stuff open. You can't be looking at this stuff. And I'm like, I'm just looking. How about we talk about, I don't know, let's see, 130 clients. They're all communicating back and forth. I'm just reading the data. I'm not actually, you know, submitting or sending data. I'm just looking at it. But 130 clients on the airplane were going. But what's interesting is they have nice 1611. The only green field has to be in the air. That's it. Okay, that was, at least somebody got it. Thank you. Holy cow. No, but then what I thought was very interesting, so they did such a nice job, got their 5 gigahertz, or their 2.4 gigahertz, and then they have 5 gigahertz, beautiful, and they just crowded them all right down there at the bottom of the spectrum, so they used only the indoor channels as they're labeled, which is good, but they were able to have a really nice channel plan, no overlap, and you know, the effective data rate was 16 megabits per second. I was not getting that though, because I did speed test it, but it was 16 megabits per second. It's pretty good when you're thinking about what they're trying to do, because they have to have their backhauls via satellite. But that's what it looks like. Pull out all your fancy toys or your tools on your flight home. We'll make a revolution out of this. We'll all be looking at the Wi-Fi instead of using it. But no, it's very interesting how it came up. What I thought was also interesting is how many people, and there was clients, and I wish I should have brought up the packet capture as well, is how many hotspots were still there. Like people had hotspots in their bags that weren't connected. They're just broadcasting. They're just beaconing, sending out beacons over and over and over again for somebody to connect. So they turned off their cell phone. They now need to tell people, hey, turn off your hotspot as well, I guess. But anyways, so we'll move on to, you know, looking at hotspots, speaking of them. Right now, public Wi-Fi is the new big thing. If you're going to have your mobile device is going to be only on Wi-Fi, you're going to also need to provide Wi-Fi to the public. But there's also people who can't afford Wi-Fi for their homes, and also some cities are finding it as a value, proposition that their city's connected or their city offers up. What's interesting is that just to look at this growth curve, anybody who would have a business that was on this growth curve would be extremely happy. But just the explosion that's occurred since 2006 with hotspots. In 2006, there was 132,000 known Wi-Fi public locations. 2013, 841,000.
That's not right.
Now, I know it's not right. Now it has grown. According to that, there is now over 47.7 million public hotspots by the end of this year available. So, and then that is expected to grow by 2018 to 340 million public Wi-Fi locations worldwide. That was by iPass, so I don't know their validity of their iPass's data. What is the real data then?
I can tell you right now, Comcast alone has over 8 million.
8 million. 9 million. 9 million.
One provider. That's not the other MSOs. That's not counting AT&T, who probably has close to a million. I'm sure it gets that.
Yeah, sure at 10 million. Yeah, so iPass's data sounds as though it's wrong because you got 9, you got 10 million, just 2 providers.
That's probably their roaming relationships and partners.
Quite possible. So that's good to know. See, this is where I appreciate the challenge. But if you were to break it down, say it is less than, say it's what iPass says, that would mean that there's a hotspot though for every 150 people. Not bad, by 2018. All right, so it's getting around. Wi-Fi is getting better, more hotspots. I know at Comcast, with their Xfinity stuff, they're one of the people that's going to do the mobile phones via Wi-Fi, so that's helpful. But when you look at what you have, what's important, with Wi-Fi and with any network connection is throughput. Throughput's what it's all about. Where everybody's looking for getting data through, we got to get data done. That's why the rates are getting faster. That's why we're trying to get things more organized. So the faster it is, the better it's going to be. But what's interesting is that with Wi-Fi, if throughput is what it's all about and everybody's trying to get there, that's why AC's out, that's why people are pushing that, people are pushing better connectors, is that there's this idea that, okay, we'll just turn on and let it go and allow the cell size to be whatever it is and allow the data rates to be whatever they are. And what happens though is when you get with Wi-Fi, excuse me, oops, went the wrong way, is that as you get farther away, the worse your throughput becomes. So you double the distance away from it. Every time you double the distance away, your throughput goes by 1/3. That's a general rule of thumb for looking at it. And as you get further and further away, you have the chances of conflicting with other networks being involved. You have also a connection where you're getting at the end of your cell size. Your end of your cell size is going to be at 1 megabit per second rates if you still have those turned on. And therefore your throughput's down, and people who contend, I keep getting a feedback, and people who are contending or devices that are contending for that space are going to start to take up airtime and talk really, really, really slow, passing data at a really, really slow rate. So one of the other pieces to keep in mind, so not only do we have this rule of thumb that the farther you get away, the data gets, your ability to pass data gets worse, is that we get so hung up with the RSSI. We get hung up with what is my connectivity, my connection strength. Well, the one thing that's kind of interesting is you have these 3 networks, okay? They all have relatively the same RSSI. The RSSI for these ones are around 65, neg 65 dBm. Of these, which one of them would you pick? If all you knew was RSSI, right? Everybody looks at RSSI. What's my RSSI? What's my RSSI? Which of the 3 would you pick? Doesn't really matter, right? It's perfect channel, 1, 6, 11, no overlap. Everybody's happy that way. These are the only 3 networks on here. But then when you actually look at the saturation of the spectrum, it's better to be on 1 or 11 because you got higher utilization of the spectrum on 6, right? The noise or the use of that RF is getting higher in that area. And so looking at just RSSI isn't going to help us. We need to understand what else is going on in that environment. We also need to understand how is the spectrum being used, who's it being used by, and how often. So then you're gonna, I hear a lot being, providing that interference is not really a thing, but interference is not the thing until it is the thing, right? And with Wi-Fi being both data and spectrum, you have your physical layer and you have your data layer. The data layer problems are generally the most. Everybody knows that data layer is the biggest one because that's where the clients are communicating, and that's where the clients have the biggest impact with regards to how it's communicating and how well they communicate. And then the RF is something that you don't really worry about too much until you've got a problem that you can't figure out. Why do I have really high transmit rates? Why am I not able to connect? Why is everybody talking really slow? So interference is a thing, but it's not the only thing about it. All right, so we're going to go on to talk about a little bit of interference. Anybody tell me what this is? What would this signature be that you're seeing, or this? Bluetooth? Definitely there is Bluetooth. The hazy blue in the back is Bluetooth, but those red spikes and the dark green spikes, this just...
PIL senses?
Yeah. It's a baby monitor, right? Why is a baby monitor? Oh, hey, I got an enterprise business. A Hewlett-Packard and they got wireless. Baby monitors isn't going to affect me, right? But there are more small businesses and medium businesses that use mixed space than there are those who have their own green-filled campuses. So mixed space places, there's a lot of businesses where they have housing above their business. And that housing has different devices, right? That's where the Xbox comes into play. The Xbox isn't going to come into play into your office generally, unless you got a really cool office that allows you to play Xbox games. But baby monitors are going to have an effect. It's just one though, just understand. But I just kind of wanted to show what we've got. But those mixed use locations is where you're going to start to run into some of the trouble. How about another one? What's this one? Camera. Yeah, camera is what he said. It is a camera. It's a analog video transmitter. Not a whole lot of these out there. It just looks really cool. But if you didn't know this thing was in your environment, you build out your network, looking at RSSI, oh yeah, everything's great. My RSSI is fantastic. So I'm going to be able to connect, but I'm not going to pass packets. All right. Let's look at another one. What's this one? It's using a lot of space, a lot of utilization. It's talking a lot. Yeah, it's a microwave oven. Not that important really, right? Until you're right next to it, I guess. And probably you're going to worry about the cancer the microwave's giving you if it does do that than you are for the actual Wi-Fi interference. But it is one of just those things that I want to bring up. They're just these odd objects that are within a facility or an office that are not known. Why is it the network goes down at lunchtime? Why is the network going down in the morning? Well, the bank of microwaves right next to your AP is probably going to cause some problems, right? Something to think about. Let's go for another one. What do you think this one is? This one is definitely more common in businesses. What's that? Zigbee. That little blip on 9 would be a Zigbee because they're short on, but they're usually not on this. This actually happens to be a wireless headsets that roam around. And you'll see that it's on different, you'll see it bounces around because most wireless headsets are frequency hoppers so that they can have one security, but they can also not have such an impact. But some of the cheaper ones just stick on a frequency and away they go. And so then you got them sitting on it, and anytime anybody's talking or using them, it can become a problem. All right, we're gonna go with one last one. There is no guessing. I just wanted to show it off. I think it's pretty cool looking. That's what AC. When you get a little bit close to an AP, you zoom in on it. That's a AC, 802.11 AC running, what is that, 80 megahertz channel. So just to show what it's gonna do, what it looks like when you got these monsters going all the way across your piece. But the one piece we started with is we don't wanna forget the data. We don't wanna, so you're looking at Spectrum. Spectrum brings up some really cool pictures, but then there's also sides to the data that you need to keep in mind. And I'm not going to get too much into the data because Jay's going to present on why you need packet analysis, and he's got another talk that's coming, so definitely check out his presentation on that. But what I wanted to do is just to highlight, so we can continue having our conversation moving forward, is that the things that you need to look for is the slow talkers, those devices that are using really slow data rates. They're either on the fringe of your cell, so they're on the outside of your cell, or they're old legacy devices that are bringing down. Because when a slow talker actually gets it, they get to contend, and they will ultimately win at some point in time. Even blind squirrels find a nut, right? Is that they will get the air. And when they get the air, it's going to be brutal for all of your very fast, high-performing devices. Then you also have got your airtime takers. These are the people who are taking QoS users who get priority a lot sooner, and they take up the airtime. They may be talking fast, but they're just taking up a lot of the airtime. And you need to be aware of who those guys are as well, and make sure you plan for it. You also, you've got those that are on the fringe or have a hidden node situation or an area where they've got, they're caught in a situation where there's a lot of overlapping networks, and they're always doing retransmits. What's that again? What's that again? What's that again? And trying to get connection. And then the last thing is, there's also the capacity. And I got up here as anything left for me. And that capacity is where you have a lot of devices connecting to the same AP and all those clients taking up the opportunity. All of them are contending for that space, and so it's an ill-designed network. So I said there would be a tragedy. And the tragedy that I would like to ask for is at least that 802.11b gets considered to not be used anymore. Turn it off if we can. And try to get, thank you. And try to get it. Now, the usage, I'm not like going out on a limb here and saying, hey, yeah, we should get rid of the NFL, where the most popular sport in the US, but I'm saying is that from what we're able to see out of 30,000 some people that we sample, only 2.3% of them in the US actually have B-only networks. And generally those networks seem to be associated with some type of manufacturing facility because all of the APs are B and all of the networks, all the connected clients are also running. But that is very low and it's probably legacy stuff there. Then G-only networks is even less than that. A lot of people are putting in B-N networks. That's not so fun. But then you have the BGN, all three of them, the trifecta. You're looking at over 56% of them in the US, people have BGN networks. And we talked about clear at the very beginning that N is backwards compatible, all right, with your legacy devices. So if we've got G devices, N should cover that. N also covers those data rates quite well. The only ones that we run into is those devices that must talk at 2 megabits per second or 5.5 megabits per second. And those devices, are requiring the B. But if you look at it, the US is doing pretty well, only 56% of them. In non-US, we're talking everywhere outside the US, 70% of them. Some other things that I'm asking that we look at is get rid of web security if at all possible. And it is dying a very slow death. And I know there's guys in here who like to hack and look for web and love to find web networks because you can mess with them. Joel, one of our guys, he's in tech support, it's pretty funny, is he talks about how his grandmother had WEP for a while and he could actually crack it faster than she could find the password for it. So, so being able to crack it, we should boot it and you can see that its percentages are going down too. And then also the non-ERP protection mechanisms, 6.5% of all networks are found to be in a situation where they're protecting themselves versus legacy devices and bringing their data rates down. So be it that they had a good run, we loved them, we appreciate what they brought for us, they allow us to move forward, but I feel it's time that, and hopefully we all as experts or those who install can start to look at the need for B and see if we can't turn that off. All right. Then there's this talk about we're running out of spectrum, right? And that we have no spectrum, we need to open up spectrum. Spectrum is one of those, in those discussions is, I don't believe it's a whole lot that we are running out, definitely, but it's also congestion. If you go look at it, this is 2.4, I was in Indonesia, took a sampling, and you can see that every single channel is covered, pretty much there's a network on them or covering all of them. There is no planning that's going on whatsoever. So you have this congestion, you have a pretty good high utilization, right? The utilization is getting up there. A lot of people are using the network. What would you suspect the 5 gigahertz to look like? How many 5 gigahertz networks would you anticipate to be here? One. One's the guess. Oh, man. One's too high. Not a single 5 gigahertz network.
Because it's Asia.
It's because it's Asia, right? That's what I got told before too, is that it's Asia. But a lot of the modern devices that the iPhones those guys are carrying, in the meeting, I was in a presentation like this, where I took that, had iPhones, they're 5 gigahertz devices. MacBooks, 5 gigahertz devices. HP laptops, 5 gigahertz devices. Still no 5 gigahertz though to utilize it. Everybody was on the 2. Yeah, it does cause some issues. But let's go on to another place where it doesn't have that. There is some limitations. But Singapore. Extremely populated location. This one just happened to be at just outside of a ISP in Singapore that I was taking this because I just want to get an idea of what was going on. So you have this congestion. There's a little bit of all the channels. Got good stacking on channel 11. How many networks would you expect? One. This time 3. This time we have 3. And what I find really interesting is that we got 5 gigahertz finally. So we found some 5 gigahertz. And I just love the fact that down here you have this guy right over top of the other guy. There's all the spectrum he could have used, this network, and decided to put it right over top. And it's a test network too, over top of their own network. So it must be testing what overlap does in 5 gigahertz. All right. How about Mexico? Let's get to North America. Now this Infinitium, don't let it throw you off. Infinitium, router or the gateway that's offered up by the local ISP, they all come with the name Infinium, and they have some number at the end that gets incremented. So every time somebody turns it on, that's what it's called. So this isn't the same network. This isn't the same ESSID. This is various different networks that are going, and you can tell that it's extremely crowded, very crowded. How many would you suspect here? None. Ah, we got one. We got one. And it's my favorite style of 5 gigahertz networks, where they actually add the underscore 5G to it to let people know it's a 5 gigahertz network. Why not let your devices just jump to it, right? I guess they want to force the connection. All right, let's go back to Europe. Pretty good channel plan. I think, you know, it looks okay. It's getting better. How many do you think here? This was actually at the last location that the WLPC was held. There's quite a few. So actually we got a pretty good number of them, except for they also, there's 2 separate networks, 2 separate ESSIDs, and they decided to overlap each other down there at the low end of the 5 gigahertz. There's a whole spectrum. All of the stuff that's up top, they could have utilized. Heck, they could have just went to 56, 60, or 64. They decided to be right on top of each other. Bad channel planning. All right, now let's go to MetaGeek's backyard. This is literally what I see when I sit in my office. I can see it. You can see there's some MetaGeek networks in here, and we actually alias all of our APs. They're called Office and Meeting and Open Space and stuff like that, or where, you know, it's literally every channel is used, and there's even a B network only, B only network, not ours. And I'll show you in the next slide whose that is. So how many 5 gigahertz networks do you think there are? This is 1. Yeah, 1. There's 2. There's ours, MetaGeeks. And then there's another company named Red Sky. And you can see that we've got pretty much a nice open field. So we have a lot of congestion, right? We have spectrum. We need to open up the spectrum. We need to get more spectrum, but we're not using the spectrum that we even have, it seems like. You know, now there's some businesses, and you install for an enterprise business, you got an opportunity to get a greenfield, or you got an opportunity to have open space, and you can pretty much build it. Well, in our location, there are some enterprises. This building that's right here is MetaGeek's building. We're in that building. We're on the 5th floor. We share it with a bunch of other businesses. We're not that big. And this circle represents how far the business that is located right here, there's a business that's located right here. That's how far their network, you can see it, at connectable rates. Because I went there. It's a coffee shop. I went there, connected, made sure I got on. And then I walked back to my office, and I saw it, and I'm like, I wonder, if it was at neg 75, at this point at my office where I drew it, so I got the line right over where my office is, I could connect and pass packets. Wasn't going too far, but I could pass packets. I'm on the 5th floor. They're on ground level. These guys are extremely loud, right? But it's showing the propagation of what that is. And the fact that they got B turned on, I'm still able to connect even when I should be outside of their cell. But because they have it, you're able to get out there, and those low data rates are still accessible. But that one I thought was quite loud. All right, so some of the other things that we want. So some of the things that we should let people know. 802.11a, it's not used very much. Not very many people like it. I think it's because N does everything that A does. No reason to pick just A. But 4% of people do. Now, N-only networks, the networks that I think that we should really be pushing to try to have as a minimum standard, if at all possible, is about 18.3% in the US have them. What about AC? So I decided, I was like, okay, so we got minimum data rates, 1 megabit per second. How many people have more than just higher than -1? Out of everyone I found, only 16.5% in the US had a data rate set, as required, higher than 1 megabit per second. That is not good. It's not good. It's allowing those lower data rates to still go, allowing your cell sizes to be much bigger, having your clients be sticky, because your sticky clients are allowed to stay longer, the longer you allow those minimum data rates to be open. In the US, or outside the US, it's even worse, only 10%, just about 11% have data rates set higher than that. And then thought, okay, so we got some people that are doing it. What does the data rate, what percentage of people have actually data rates higher than 6 megabits per second? And we got 4.3% in the US. So that means that they set mandatory, which is what was really weird. That means somewhere in there, about 12%, the difference there, set a data rate of maybe 2 megabits per second as their minimum data rate, right? Or 5.5, because that's your choices. 1, 2, 5.5, and they decided to choose 2 or 5.5, I guess, as their minimum data rate. That's pretty rough. So the AC thing, it's coming in waves, gives you the high data, the high throughput, allows you to get to the 7 gigabits per second rate. There's hundreds of clients. Each client that comes out seems to be, minimum has AC support in most routers that you get for your home. So what does it look like from what we've seen? And what I've got up here is managed versus consumer. Managed being what would be considered an enterprise business, if you can, is that they're looking at about 20%, which is up. Since the last time we gave this presentation, just in 6 months ago, the percentage was 9.8%, and it's went up to 20%, almost doubled in 6 months. That percentage just went up, which is fantastic. Outside the US, it's almost done the exact same thing, but it's still low. But the consumers, all of us at our homes, all of us that have maybe Soho, small businesses or home offices, we're adopting AC much faster. And that's because the clients that we have now can handle that, and we're getting there, which is a big positive, because that's up 35.5% of consumers have an AC or are utilizing, or their networks see an AC. And then in the US, 18%. So thought that was very good. All right, we're getting close to the end of this thing. What did we talk about? Well, we talked about much higher than that over 800,000. Now we're in millions of hotspots. 10 million that we talked about, just minimum, but the reported 340 million are coming out or should be out. We have 400 and some million houses growing. Do we still need B? Does anybody here still think we need B? Anybody? Come on, defend it, somebody.
My kids think that they should play on Wii, which is requiring it.
Oh, yeah, oh boy. I had that same situation at home too. I set up a beautiful thought, all right, turn N on only, it's gonna be awesome, no B networks. And so I turned on N only, and my son comes down, and he's like, Dad, my DS won't do silent chat or something like this. I don't know what it's called. Some chat system that the Nintendo DS has. Stopped working. I'm like, it worked at all? Because I was surprised that this thing even has. This is a DS, those little video games, the handheld video games. He was chatting with his buddies, I guess. And it's a B device. And it was communicating over B, which it still can't communicate, because I didn't really think a 9-year-old should be randomly talking to people with his DS, but that's a whole different discussion to have. And the Wii, I had the same problem with the Wii as well, and I hard plugged it. I just ran an Ethernet cable. Boo, I know. Cables, wires, what the heck, but yeah, I did do that. Out of spectrum, I'm not sure. 2.4 is very crowded, definitely. And if you get all those networks on 1.6 and 11, or if you're in Europe and you have the luxury of, 1.5, 9, 13, you have the opportunity to at least organize it better. And one of the things that I find kind of interesting about that is that if you go look at articles, there's a bunch of articles out there, and I did this myself. I ask you all to go try this out, because we are the experts, and we are the people that are trying to help move this technology forward, or at least make it better. And we also give out some bad advice sometimes. You go out there and look at it and go, improve my Wi-Fi, or optimize my Wi-Fi, or make my Wi-Fi better. And you'll end up finding out there's a lot of people that recommend getting a new router, which is good. The vendors that are here, or vendors, the related vendors, love that. Get new routers, get new gateways. But then they always talk about picking the right channel. And the advice is very consistent with pick whatever channel no one else is on. Literally an article, and this crushed me. The guy wrote the article that says, go out and get Insider. Yay, go MetaGeek, go Insider. Go out and get Insider, launch it, and then his advice was, go pick the channel that no one else is on. And he showed a screenshot of Channelizer, and there was no networks on channel 9. He says, I would pick channel 9 right now. I was dying. I was like, that's our product. It's being used for ill, evil, not good. Of course, I commented on it. My comment was removed, so I emailed the author. He didn't respond, so I emailed him with a different address. He finally responded to that one. I said, hey, you can't do this to us. Oh, that article, don't worry about it. I'm like, no, people are looking at this stuff. It was the third, I believe it's the third most found one. Go check it out. It's crushing. You know, and they got other things. You know, people talk about amplifiers. Add amplifiers to make sure your Wi-Fi is better. You know, come on, really? An amplifier? But these are things that we as a community should, you know, try to take stewardship. If you have a blog, make sure you blog and get that stuff, you know, make sure you got your SEO working, make sure you got search terms so your stuff is found so that we give good advice. So we can actually start to get rid of these low data rates, and so we can get it much faster and start to use the spectrum better. Because once we start using the spectrum as it's supposed to be, then we can just probably should be a much bigger discussion. But AC is coming. It's a little slow still, but 5 gigahertz is there. We don't need AC as much as we just need people to turn on the 5 gigahertz antenna if they've got it. Turn on, use 5 gigahertz. And that will start to offload some of the 2.4 stuff and allow us to actually get, you know, open up and start to, you know, address some of our own problems. There aren't any interferers right at the moment in 5 gigahertz that are causing any substantial issue. So might as well move forward with it. And then design and awareness is king. Design or know what's going on in your environment. You know, if you're driving down the interstate, you're not just going to change lanes. Well, you may without looking. You could or could not get yourself hurt, but you're aware of what's going on around you. So just like with Wi-Fi, why not be aware of what's going on around and everybody, you know, kind of move it. And also design. Pick a channel that is actually with somebody else. Avoid overlapping other people. Because then you allow the protocol to do what its job is, and its protocol is to avoid conflict, and its job is to open up the contentions. So at this point, what questions? What do we got? Yes, sir.
So
It's right up here.
So the question is this. So is Metageek throwing up a nice little error message when, this is working, right? So does Metageek's software throw up a nice little error message when the laptop only does 2.4 and say, you bought the cheapest laptop there was, you should have paid the extra $5. Please, the reason why your Wi-Fi sucks is because you're only using half of what we have and you're using the crappy stuff.
Not that exact error message. That's a bit long. WPS doesn't really like that much, but no, we don't. But our software actually does, our Insider Office package does give warnings, does tell people that they have legacy data rates turned on. We do tell them that you know, they should look at their channel selection. We do try to give some advice. We don't tell them that their stuff sucks because we all know that it's, you know, that it's a challenge to have some of the best and the greatest gear. But in the 2.4, you know, it's still just use the 2.4 properly and you'll get better speeds. Even with old and even inexpensive stuff, you're still going to get better performance if you use it right. And unfortunately, there's a lot of not using it right.
Well, the challenge we have is when a kid comes to campus, you know, they get the cheapest thing they can.
Yeah.
And what I'm saying is the not Channelizer, I want to have the SSIDers, the low end thing to explain to people that, you know, if you bought a better wireless card, your performance would be better. Because to me, that's the challenge I have is, yeah, these kids show up and 2.4 is awful, and they can't run to 5.
Yep.
Because their hardware won't do it. And that's you know, people trying to, you know, save $1.
Yeah.
And that's a message that doesn't get out, and so the vendors keep making this crap.
Yeah.
Because at this day and age, there's no, in fact, I'm happy AC is here because you can't make a thing that does AC. But to me, that's one of these things we need to do.
Yes.
Sorry, soapbox off.
I think it's a fantastic comment because you know, an AC or an N wireless adapter that you can buy a USB adapter for a laptop, $25, $22 on Amazon. I mean, they can even probably get them cheaper, you know, and go. Yes.
AliExpress, it's a wonderful place when you're shopping. But if did that with our IT students. They buy the cheapest laptop ever, and then they complain that they're doing exams, and the IT professors are actually arguing with us because they say that our Wi-Fi is on as that, and we have to bring out the packet capture to show them, look, this guy, his card, if he takes another card, it works well. So it's not the Wi-Fi, it's the cheap laptop. You know?
Yeah, no, it's fine. Yeah, what she was getting at, the IT department sounds like it's arguing with you guys that the Wi-Fi is terrible when it's really the gear, to the point that was being made earlier. This is really the gear that's the problem. And it's really unfortunate that an IT student or even an IT professor would, that actually is interesting. I was just thinking about it. They always say that if you can't do, you teach.
Well, don't worry about it.
Not to, but it's the idea is you can actually upgrade, right? You can get a simple piece.
Don't worry, we don't take it personally. Actually, the IT professors argue with my coworkers who have been working and operating the network, the university's network, for the last 15 years about how stuff works.
Yeah.
So, never mind. We just show them the proof, and they stopped arguing with us.
Right.
One example, and I'm sorry, I don't want to change the topic too quickly, is that one example that you have not shown and that I've seen in the res halls. Actually, I have a building that's res halls on the top 5 floors and offices at the bottom. And there's the security services offices.
Yeah.
Great. I see a lot of wireless TVs popping up.
Yes.
In my spectrum analyzer.
Yeah. Wireless TVs are an interesting one. They can cause some issues. Especially I think Samsung allows you to create an ad hoc network with theirs, where it's actually has they use the Wi-Fi card to actually create an AP essentially, so you can throw up your screen and stuff like that with those smart TVs. So yeah, they are causing problems, and they're not channel. They can't select what channel they can be on. They can be on any channel they want. So that's a big problem. Yeah, no, that's a really good one. That needs to be added. Any other comments? The one, yeah, please.
Some of the data that you had up there, you had percentage breakdowns.
Yes, sir.
Do you have that based on location or any GPS information that shows how bad it is in urban areas versus suburban areas?
It does not contain GPS info in it. No, it'd be kind of a tough one. Because I get what you're trying to get to is to find the city. If we could find what city they were in, that'd be good. I don't have that though. No, it doesn't.
Yeah, I'm just seeing congestion a lot more in like downtown urban areas or apartment complexes, as opposed to like more rural areas where you can still use 2.4.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
and
definitely.
Then, are you aware of anywhere? Because on your 5 gig stuff, almost all the DFS stuff was completely blank.
Yes.
Are you aware of anywhere that keeps records of where DFS is getting hit?
DFS getting hit? Meaning someone's using DFS?
Yeah, where the AP's got to quit broadcasting on the DFS channels.
We don't. That'd be actually an interesting piece. So it's something like a forced turnoff or a channel change based on DFS event?
Yeah, I was just wondering if there was a database that you were aware of that kept that information.
I don't know of a database that we could, but I can actually ask our developers to put in tracking for DFS, because we do know when because we do understand what channels networks are on, and we do every once in a while see DFS channels selected, but for the most part it seems like because gear isn't allowed to be on DFS, there is some gear that's not allowed, there is some that can be, and some devices don't communicate on DFS either. They just don't have access to that channel on the table to select from, so. But no, we don't have that. Yes, please.
I was going to talk about the removing legacy data rates from the infrastructure side of things. I think Lee just made a comment on Twitter about the vendors really need to start to actually push this through. Kit is shipping with 11B enabled, high transmit powers coming out of it, and in the enterprise side of things, that's one thing. Most of us are smart enough to go in, turn that off if we don't need it.
Right.
The problem we face in all of our environments is people bringing rogue devices in, sticking them in. These things are antisocial by their default configuration. They come with bonded channels in 2.4, 80 meg wide channels in 11AC, just because it's a contest to see who can get the highest numbers out there.
Yep.
And I work predominantly in large public venues, and we will see thousands of rogue APs popping up. And it's people go down to the local Best Buy or whatever, they buy the cheapest, nastiest thing they can get their hands on, and then come complaining to us when it doesn't work. And it's like, well,
Yeah.
Yeah, and the problem is most of these things don't even have the buttons required to turn this stuff off. You can even go and buy a fairly fancy, Apple Airport Extreme or something like that, and that's still got 11B rates enabled. It's doing an 80 meg channel in AC. The vendors really need to start to help with this. And I know there's a thing like don't break the client, don't make it so that God forbid one customer might have a problem with some legacy device that they're not aware of. But
Right. I'm with you, especially when you have the ISPs sending out gear. Why isn't that gear automatically?
Yeah, absolutely. And in the UK, the national telco have just started rolling out 11AC in their CPE, and by default, that is doing 80 meg channels in 5 gig. And it's like, for what? You've got a 10 meg ADSL connection going into the back of this thing.
Yeah, exactly. You're hanging less data than you can push, right? Yeah. I have that, the same idea of why is it that there's smart channel selection, and smart channel selection is channel 2. How is that the smart channel to select, right? I don't understand.
Yeah, the big telcos again in the UK, they have they have actually got some element of RRM now in their CPE, that they are doing 1611 on 2.4. There is some element of TPC in there, but it's still, they still have 11B data rates enabled. Yeah. And most of them are still doing WEP encryption because...
Right. I think that it would be interesting is that if you have it, you can still have B clients on a G network, right? So even if they turn B off and they turn G on, say move to there, but B devices can communicate at 11 megabits per second. They just have to be closer, but they still can communicate at 11 megabits per second. So why not, right? Why not force them to talk as fast as some of the slower devices that are more modern are talking? And then at least get the playing field even, for nothing else. And also it starts to reduce your cell connected size, so your contention gets better. What about anybody else? Yes, ma'am. Or sir, I can't tell. Sorry.
When you say find clear channel and get on that channel, but the channels will keep changing. So, that's a hard statement to just say, when you say, find the clear channel and put your equipment on it. Well, with so many APs and so many rogues and so many devices out there, that's very dynamic too. So do you have a better rule of thumb than find the channel and pick it?
Mine is find a channel that's if you're trying to get one, you want to say at least 2 away, right, from anybody. When you're out in rural areas, you can actually sometimes you can pick whatever channel you want. You can bond and do what you want because there's nobody to interfere with. But the way 802.11 works, though, is that it is better that everybody's on the same channel than they are in overlapping channels. So it's better to find a channel that has fewer overlapping than there is to find a channel that has maybe more networks on it. If there's channel 11 and it has 4 networks, but no one's overlapping with it, and 1, 6 have a bunch of overlapping, go to 11, because at least then all of the APs that are on 11 will be able to share that and share the medium appropriately and utilize the technology for what it's meant for, of round robining who's supposed to get to talk when they're supposed to talk, and they know when each other are talking, so you get better throughput that way. But if you have stuff overlapping and you choose channel 9 because there's no one overlapping, now you're just causing yourself and other people who you're overlapping with issues, because now you're just adding noise to it and you're bringing the noise floor up without adding any value to it. Yes, ma'am.
So I agree. I'm loud. I agree with what you said, but I've been operating networks in urban environments for a long time. And the city buses drive down the street and basically cause interference along the way. So while you could pick your channel, I'm in the same exact boat that you're in on the fact that, trains and buses go down and basically will cause that jump on a constant basis, but you might not catch it during scans. So this is not exactly an easy problem to say, just pick your cheapest channel or pick your least congested channel and do this, right? So I mean, you know, there is all that contention out there, and I think it's a problem that won't necessarily be solved with the limited spectrum that we have.
Yeah. All right. Keith just said I have to go. But anyways, wait, 1 second. My last slide. Anybody who's wanting to be a beta tester for MetaGeek products, take down my email address, please, and we'll get you in the program, and you can do that. Thank you, and have a good show.